Hello, Marco Polo here with another Valhalla Movement podcast. And today we have got a very, very special guest. And I know I say that every single time, but it's really true. His name is Dave Cascino, and he started a brilliant website. Probably, honestly, one of the most exciting websites I've seen in a long time. Since things like Kickstarter and Facebook and all these things, to me, it is like my wet dream of creating a website, and Dave kind of put this together. It's called Thunderclap. So if you visit Thunderclap.it, or I'll put some links and stuff in the description below. It's an incredible platform, and I'm not even gonna do it enough justice to describe it to you and how it works. But all I'm gonna let you know is that he created it, and having had one previous conversation with him before, the inspiration of where it came from, to me is mind blowing because I was there. I feel that same connection. So thank you for being here.
Hey, really good to be here, Mark, and excited to chat with you guys. Like I was saying when we talked earlier, I saw what the Valhalla movement is doing, and a lot of people want to make change, and there's so many instances where we see something online and we're like, man, I want to do something about it, and I really applaud how you guys are, you're sort of out there on the front lines of trying out new stuff, being experimental, and sort of and making it sexy, and not making causes and changing the world doesn't have to be boring. So I salute what you guys are doing.
See, the fact that you said that, the fact that that nails it for me. Like, causes don't have to be boring. Like, me and my buddy, this one guy who I've done a lot of video with over the years, over the last 2 years at least. His name is Jesse, and we used to have this conversation all the time about how eco-housing and like some of these green cars and electric cars, they make the weirdest kind of like niche market type of car or niche market type of house that kind of a few people want to buy, but not everyone. Not everyone wants to live in that kind of situation, and that creates a serious problem because if they made the electric car look like the new Corvette or the new whatever, everyone would want it. So I always say that if we make sustainability sexy, then we'll make sustainability mainstream. If we create the high quality media, if we create the good information, the interesting videos and blogs and all that kind of stuff, in the same way that I don't know, BuzzFeed or whatever, eTalk Daily or Entertainment Tonight has all these things about stars and movies and whatever it is. If we do that for sustainability, we're gonna have a much larger market. But I think the other thing is, if we do that and we get the word out, which is what Thunderclap is all about, realistically, then we will also, that just amplifies it to the end of time. So let me ask you something. I know what it is, but for those who don't know what it is and may be listening and kind of Googling this as they go, what is Thunderclap and kind of where did it come out of?
Yeah, sure. So Thunderclap is really simple. It's a dead simple idea. Typically, when you post something on your Twitter or Facebook account, maybe a few of your friends will see it, and someone might retweet it, or you might get a couple likes. But it's really hard to feel like you're having an impact when you post something on social media, especially for an individual. I have a few hundred friends on Facebook, Twitter, and don't have this huge in-person audience like a celebrity or something would. And so whenever I post something, especially in the past, I felt as if it was just sort of throwing it out there in the void. And Thunderclap was born out of that idea that it's really hard to be heard as an individual. And so the actual concept came out of Occupy Wall Street and also the SOPA PIPA internet rebellion that was going on. I got pulled into that. I was tweeting and changing my avatar profile, and it was the first time in my life I actually called my representatives to voice my concern over this law. But even so, I felt like I was speaking into a void. So, I'm in New York City. I went for a walk one day, and I always tended to walk by Zuccotti Park. There was a lot of interesting things going on there, and I just had this natural, attraction to see what was happening and see what people were, what the big noise was about. So I walked by one day, and someone was standing up on a picnic table or a bench, I don't remember, but they were doing something called the human megaphone. And Mark, I know you know what that is. I'm sure you heard a lot of it, but
for sure.
If you haven't seen it or heard it before, it's a really amazing tactic to amplify your voice in a public space. A lot of times, you can't get a permit for a PA system, or you don't have the money, or you don't even have a bullhorn.
Mm-hmm.
So the Occupy group, a lot of the people were borrowing this technique, which I Googled later and found out had its origins in the nuclear war protests in the 80s. And basically, this is how it works. A person would speak, and then everyone within earshot would repeat what they were saying word for word. Then everyone in back of them would repeat it, and so on. And the speaker's message would ripple throughout the entire park, solely powered on human voices. And this just punched me in the face when I saw it. I thought this was such a cool way to get around that regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wait a minute, you can't do this online. And I was kind of puzzled by that. There's no way to really band together to amplify a message. And so as a developer, a programmer, I freaked out, and I ran home and I started working on a prototype. And about 3 months later, we launched the product.
So literally, like, wait, you ran home like that day and started working on it.
I did. I just here's my process, right? I get an inspiration or something. I just want to see if it's possible first, and I want to see if there's something out there already. And so, it's sort of that early exploration stage. Like, A, is anyone doing this? Wait, no one is. Interesting. And B, is it possible? Is there some kind of limitation with APIs or whatever to prevent that? And in both cases, no one had done it, and there was no limitation. So, I just felt compelled to bring this thing to life.
Wow. I mean, for me, that story speaks so intensely to me, because at the time, so I went down to Zuccotti Park. I saw Occupy Wall Street, literally on Wall Street. I went to Occupy Montreal, where I actually interviewed David Suzuki, a famous kind of activist and a biologist, I believe. And I loved the idea, but I also saw such huge challenges to things like the megaphone and all that kind of stuff, the human megaphone. And it was working, but every once in a while you got this one guy up there and it really sucked, and his message sucked or whatever, and he was just complaining and everyone didn't want to do it anymore. Or there was times where, like in Montreal, it was really tough because it was like our first gathering, the first time Occupy Montreal was supposed to start. It was about a month after the Wall Street one had started. And they were doing the message, but we were all lined up, and there was this park, and the way it's set up is that there's basically a fountain in the middle. So everyone lined up at the fountain, and I'm there right next to the guy with the megaphone, or doing the megaphone, the speaker kind of thing. And they're talking and trying to do the human megaphone, but it kept failing. And it kept, it just wasn't working. Like, they were here, or they would say, way too long of a message, and they weren't able to repeat the whole thing. And in Montreal, it's even more tough, because there's the whole French and English thing. Montreal is a very French town, but there's also a strong English population, so it created this whole thing of "Dis-le en français," say it in French, say it in English, blah blah blah. And it was this whole big mess of a thing. And I kept saying, I'm like, if there was just a platform online where all of this was happening, as opposed to in person. I understand the power of in person. I understand the power of speaking in person. There's a feeling that you get when we can see each other, that if our videos were off right now, we wouldn't get it. And if we were in person, it would be even more. You would feel it even more. But if you can have that collective voice be recorded online, have it happen online, and then in today's day and age, have it be viral online because of the fact that a whole bunch of people are sharing it at one moment, you are enabling, to me, the most interesting aspect of the internet, which is, and this is, you fought for SOPA and PIPA and all that stuff. That's the most important thing about the internet today, to me, is the internet leveled the playing field. It's like a city, but there's no mountains in the city, and everyone is on the same playing field. And whether you're big or small, okay, obviously people with lots of money could do better. But if you have a really good idea, and you commit yourself to it, and you find the right team, and you work with the right people, you can make the next Facebook, you can make the next Twitter, you can make the next Reddit. In my opinion, you can make the next Thunderclap, because I think Thunderclap is going to be absolutely phenomenally huge. I mean, I think you created something that is, I think it's even bigger than, I don't want to say it's bigger than Valhalla. It's a tool that I don't know if Valhalla could continuously grow and become bigger without something like this. This is the window of opportunity for such great messaging to be able to be heard. And to to do real change. Like, you can make a thunderclap for kind of petty stuff, like we're oh, I don't know, we're gonna try and make some random stupid topic, 4chan, like 4chan or some Reddit channels will do. They're gonna just try and make some random obscure thing go viral and circumvent the internet. But you can also do it for a really good cause. You could use it for the same things that Occupy Wall Street were looking to do, which is like, jail bankers or whatever, or keep their elected congressmen or whatever accountable. And so, I mean, have you ever thought about how powerful of a platform you've created?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we get really inspired by how people use it, because at the end of the day, it's a tool, right? It's like, Twitter's a tool. It's like, oh, it's interesting. You can share your status updates, and by itself, it's not really that amazing. It's like, oh, like messages go on this thing, and then people read them, and that's it. It's not even that hard to build technically, until you hit scale. But and so yeah, like what inspires me every day is seeing the stories. We've run over 10,000 campaigns since we launched, and a lot of times after a campaign is successful, the organizer will email us and say, hey, this thing had an impact, and here's how. And those those anecdotes, those stories that we hear from the organizers just makes me want to run to work in the morning and make this thing even better. I mean, just a quick story. Someone ran a thunderclap in the UK last year about bone marrow registration. There was this person that was dying of bone cancer, and everyone fell in love with her. She was a young girl, and it was clear that she wasn't going to win the battle. But the friends and the family were like, well, what can we do? Like, everyone wants to help, but then you don't really know how to help. And so one of the friends of the family found Thunderclap. It's like, oh, it's a social media tool. He's a social media guy. He organized a campaign, and he got a few hundred supporters to back it. And the day after the Thunderclap tipped, his name was Glenn. He went to the different bone marrow registration centers in his area in the UK, and on average, they reported a 700% increase in people actually becoming registered, eligible donors of bone marrow.
Wow.
And so, we're like, wow, like someone took our tool, like rallied all these people together, and then there was this tangible outcome that would benefit the world. And stuff like that just blows me away and makes me want to just make it better and get it in front of more people and keep going with it.
Well, you have the right tool for getting in front of more people. Maybe you should thunderclap.
So meta.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like a version of Inception right there. But I mean, dude, honestly, seriously, since I discovered it, and I discovered it like a week and a half ago, and then the day I discovered it, in the same way that you ran home and kind of started coding, I ran home and I was like, I'm messaging whoever runs this operation, which happened to be you. I happened to talk to you about like doing a podcast and talking about how, because I think, like, truthfully, I can't think of Thunderclap and I can't think of viral anymore without thinking of Kony 2012. Kony 2012 to me was the most viral cause I've ever seen go. Like, I've never seen a cause go that insane. Like, I've seen, we've all getting these emails of like, this person's gonna die, bone marrow thing, whatever. Like, I get that. They go viral, like, to some degree, but not in the same way that Kony 2012 did. Like, Kony 2012 was a 30-minute video, and everyone watched pretty much the entire thing, and everyone was talking about it. And they had this huge call to action of stopping Kony. And then what I thought was brilliant, and I still think is brilliant, what they did was they said, at the end of it, you went on their site, and it's like, you can go through the steps of how to help out. And one of the steps was tweet somebody. Tweet one of these influential people, because if they retweet it, it goes viral. And if Rihanna or Barack Obama or whoever it was that they were trying to get to tweet it, tweeted it, it would go viral. And they did. Okay, some of them did, because they were getting all these tweets from all these people watching this video, and it literally exploded this cause. Now, the saddest part for me is that Kony's still out there. They didn't catch Kony, and it didn't work. But in that respect, and a lot of that had to do with the meltdown that guy had, and it's so unfortunate because he had such a, like, oh man, what they had going was, to me, was incredible. Like, they could have taken that into a whole new level of philanthropy, but and of like cause. I don't want to say cause marketing, but just taking a cause and really making a difference within that. And to me, Thunderclap is like that next level evolution of that, which allows anybody to do this. Like Coney, the team behind that, they had a brilliant filmmaker, they had a brilliant team and coders, and they were brilliant marketing type minds, and they did a good job at it. But you're providing this kind of potential power, this tool into any regular folks' hands. Like anybody can do this.
Yeah, I mean, like I think what you guys are doing, like you're focusing on creating amazing content, and that intrinsically is the type of stuff that will spread. So in Coney's case, they had it right, amazing video, like the site was so well done, like the calls to action were just simple, and had these tangible outcomes, and so they nailed all the different components. But most people are still trying to figure out how to use social media. They're like, I don't know, do I get an account? Like, what do I tweet this thing? It's the Wild West, right? It's only been around for a few years. And so if you can systematize it a bit, and say, okay, well, only make your message this size. And like Twitter was brilliant at that. It's, by limiting agency, it forced people to get to the point. Mm-hmm. And, we're trying to copy as much of that as possible, where it's, make sure they upload a high-res image, just sort of like handhold in the beginning, because a lot of people have never had to do this before. They're just they're tasked with an objective. They see these tools out there, but none of the tools make sense independently. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it really helps to give people guidelines, like, we're making best practices. We show case studies. We give examples of other successful campaigns. So, following what someone else has done in the past, you don't have to copy what they do word for word or everything, but it just inspires you to really, have a clean, tight message, have beautiful imagery, tell a compelling story that people will care about, and then finding smart ways to share it. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the blueprint that people that are doing well are following.
So we described what it is and how it's like, or what it's kind of trying to achieve. But how does it actually work? Like, I understand it, and I've looked into it, but I'm sure the person listening to this is like, okay, well, wait. Your somehow social media accounts are being blasted out somehow. Like, can explain what is actually happening? What are people doing when they're signing up to Thunderclap, or like signing up to a particular Thunderclap?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So the platform is really simple. You create a message that you want people to share. It's a tweet-sized message, just something really concise, 120-ish characters. Mm-hmm. You upload an image. A big component of a Thunderclap is the concept of a deadline. And so you want to synchronize all these people tweeting and posting at the same time. So you have to pick that date. And so it's really smart to align it with, an event that you're doing a launch, you're revealing some new information, you're doing something like at a live event. So find it, or maybe the day has significance. Maybe it's, Alzheimer's Awareness Day, or, the day that you met your wife, or whatever. Something. And so you have a deadline, and you set a goal. How many people do you want to back this thing before it can blast out? And so our minimum is 100, just to sort of ensure quality of content. If you can get 100 people to spread something, it's probably has some weight behind it.
Kind of merit, yeah.
And so that's basically it. So you create your campaign, you put it up there, and then you have to start promoting it, right? You ask your friends, hey, can you lend a tweet or a Facebook post? And what you're really asking people to do is to authorize their Twitter, Facebook, or Tumblr account to share one message with everyone else all at the same time. And that's basically
at that day, at that time, that message that you wrote, that 120 character thing, with you can't have at mentions, but you can have hashtags and stuff, right? That goes out, and it allows the message to go viral.
That's the goal.
Potentially go viral.
Potentially.
If it's good enough of a message, it will definitely kickstart it way further than not having that. Like, if you get 1,000 people to sign up and post something at the exact same time around the world, and you have a good message, chances are you're going to go pretty far. Like, that's... Yeah. I don't think... Like, people have to understand what this means, because this is like a marketer's wet dream. Like, I have clients who are like, so I need you to make this video, and you're going to put me up on Facebook, and you're going to make it go viral, right? Like, it's viral. We're going to have millions of people walking in our door tomorrow morning. And I'm like, yeah, like, that's exactly how it works. No, it's not at all how it works. Like, creating good content, creating a website that you make money off of, or creating like a following of any kind, having readership on a website, Even from Valhalla's perspective, like 2 years ago we didn't exist. Now maybe today we have like 600-700 daily visitors, maybe 800 daily visitors. Pretty decent, not bad. But if we, it all comes through the fact that we were creating good content, unique content, our own content. Like we're really trying to promote as much good content as possible and constantly, consistently making it. Because if I make 10 blog posts in one day and then 0 for the next 2 months, it's worth nothing. I mean, unless I had a really good blog post and it kind of still is perpetually going around the web slowly but surely, maybe. But chances are you wouldn't. A lot of people wouldn't have stumbled upon that blog post that first day I put it out. But this opportunity, this Thunderclap-like situation, is the number one thing that we can do. And Valhalla is going. We're gonna use this. Like this is gonna. I've told everyone about Thunderclap. They're super excited about it, and I'm like, we're gonna do one once a month. Like we have to. Like there's no reason we shouldn't try and figure something out to make this propel forward. And if we can make one high quality kind of post that goes out to, we get like 100 supporters or 500 supporters or 1,000 supporters in a month, that a chance at growing our Facebook page, at growing our readership, at extending our mission, which is to make sustainability mainstream, further and further out and making ripples in creating, the sustainability sexy kind of image. Well, I'm telling you, this is the holy grail. Like this is like the opportunity to do that. And I don't know, like I guess you could have done it otherwise. Like I could have sent out a newsletter and said, hey, please, everyone at this time, this place, like we'll send you a reminder 10 minutes before, everyone blast this out at the same time. But the level of coordination that has to go into that and like the level of personal messaging and emails and all that stuff is nowhere nearly as effective as like doing it once and forgetting about it, and then like 29 days later, oh shit, yeah, it's true, I signed up to that, boom, it went out. It created this little bomb and this big rock in a pond kind of situation, and now you're seeing these ripples, and you have this real opportunity to go viral. I've said it before, like if we can make one thing go viral, like truthfully viral, 1 million people see it, Valhalla can explode, and that potential we're always a fraction of a step away from it, but it's very, very hard to do, specifically today, because now with Facebook being a public company and all this stuff, organic reach is, we have maybe 30,000 people on our Facebook page. We've used our numbers. If we post something and we don't get a couple of likes right away and a couple of shares and a lot of, comments and stuff, it doesn't do as well. It doesn't go, it's not like 30,000 people see it just because we have 30,000 likes. Maybe 1,000 people see it. And if a post is really bad, not even 1,000 people see it out of 30,000 Facebook likes. So, and that's not a lot. Like there's pages with millions of likes, but who have similar numbers in terms of likes and shares on some of their posts as we do. So I'm like, like it's interesting to think about that. There's a force out there that's trying to control information, and information is today it's the new age gold. It's like it's the digital age gold. And if the more information you have, the more attention you could bring to that information, the more power you seem to have. And that's what TVs were, that's what radio shows are, and now that's what the internet is. And I wonder, like, is there a future to Thunderclap? Like, do you see any evolution to it? Like, what have you seen happen over the years that has worked or not worked, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, so we're only 2 years old, so we haven't seen too much in terms of like evolution of the ecosystem. But we have had about 10,000 campaigns run through the door, so we see patterns, and I think people are just getting they're getting better at a lot of the work you described earlier with the the 10 blog posts at one time versus spread out. There's a lot of work that goes into getting your material out there. Even if your content is amazing, it's still, you have to put it out there and you have to tell people about it. And like having a system for that, having a focal point where, it's like, hey, once a month we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and being consistent with it and sort of, I find like consistency is probably one of the most important factors in hustle. We had this one organizer. She didn't even have a Twitter account when she started. She created one just to like create a Thunderclap, and she had a few hundred Facebook friends, just like the rest of us. And she was able to get like 12,000 people to back her Thunderclap, and she literally was like at mentioning people like a machine, just like going through and finding the right people, and she got her friends involved. So now she had like an army of people just like reaching out and saying, hey, you should, I see that you're interested in this, you should back this thing. And there was just a tremendous amount of like disciplined effort and hustle that was involved with that. And then, of course, there's the stuff that is just interesting and it kind of like blows up on its own. But, in that case, would it have just blown up on its own anyway? And so,
I don't know. There's really good content out there that doesn't blow up on its own. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's kind of, and it's funny too, because we think, like, we see campaigns come in, we're like, oh, this thing is going to be huge, oh, it's so good, and then there's like 3 people support it. We're like, what the heck? Like, this is like the best one we've seen all day, and it's like just kind of like laying there. And then we go to the organizer's Twitter page, and like they've only tweeted about it once at like 10 in the morning, and that was it, and they just kind of forgot about it. And it's like, oh, like, you have to kind of mention it a couple times a day, and you haven't even mentioned it on Facebook yet. Didn't send out any email blasts, no blog post. It takes organized effort, but what I feel like we're trying to provide is a focal point. It's like, look, here's the container. Your content's packaged up in this thing. It's very shareable. You can just point people to this thing and say, hey, we just want you to do one quick thing. Just go here, authorize your thing, you're done. And it gives them like a focused ask, as opposed to like having to write these crazy emails and then customize each email. Like, in that, and maybe that's sort of the trend is sort of, things that have changed in the last couple of years, or at least stuff we're learning as we're doing it, is, content has to be, snackable. It has to be, packaged up and easy to share. Companies like Upworthy, like, they're just optimizing strictly around, how do you make this unit shareable and snackable, and the headline optimizations.
Yeah, and I struggle with the the ethicalness of certain aspects of the web in that way, where like somebody will create great content, and then there's some of the biggest websites out there are just taking other people's content and reposting it. That's like Upworthy or all these things. They're just taking content that they saw online that's doing well, trending on whatever other thing on the internet, and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna put it right over here. And then we're going to put a nice little share button in this here, and boom, it goes. Mashable, whatever it is, Upworthy, all these things. They're just taking this content and just kind of blasting it through. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, man, maybe we should do that. Like, maybe Valhalla should just take some of the best sustainability content that is killing it out there already, share it, and see if we can make a bigger website. But, I always come back to the fact that, creating, for me at least, there's a certain pride that comes with creating my own content. And not just my own, but our content, our collective content for a banner, and then saying, hey, this is our unique content. And if other people want to take our stuff and share it and put it out there on Upworthy or whatever it is, okay. But I do see an incredible value in doing something like a Thunderclap, where people ask us every single day how they can help. To the point where we created on our website, there's like a help out tab, and then we tell people they could do this, and they can download this banner and put it as their Facebook banner, or they can sign up to our newsletter, and they can donate, or they can visit Greenseed, or like whatever it is. Like we walk them through these steps, and we haven't evolved it in a while. And I wish, to be honest, I should spend more time on it, because I know if we did, we would have better results and people wanting to help us. And this is one of the few ways that you can actually, with a couple of clicks, actually make a difference. Like, you can spend that time, instead of watching that next YouTube video, you can spend a little bit of time just signing up and supporting a couple of Thunderclaps and things that going around your site, and you can really make a difference in some people's lives. You can really make a startup turn into a real project. You can really make an idea fly across the internet and become something big. Like, it's the potential for me is seriously overwhelming, to the point where since we spoke last week, no joke, I've thought about it and I've mentioned it. I think I've mentioned it as much as I've mentioned Valhalla. And I'm not even kidding. I'm really not even kidding. I was sitting down and talking about Greenseed, and like, because Greenseed is going to be a public crowdfunding platform for people who are listening to this. Greenseed right now on our website, it's Valhalla-based projects, but it was a beta for trying to launch the Kickstarter of sustainability, basically, okay, with all kinds of features and all sorts of stuff. Trust me, you're going to hear about it soon. And with that, we were like, well, what if when somebody's setting, because the number one thing that comes out of crowdfunding is always well, how do you do it? Like, what do I need to do? How do I make it viral? Like, do I put it up and then people are going to donate? I'm like, no. Like you just said, you have to share. You have to do stuff. Like, you have to have dedication. It takes a team of people. You still need to do things. Yes, some random people are going to donate just because they stumbled upon the site or whatever, but you have to put some effort into it. And I was like, wow, like what if when they're signing up for Green Seed, one of the steps for signing up at the end of it was, hey, do you want to set up a Thunderclap? Like, here's your potential opportunity to make it maybe go viral, make this campaign maybe go further. If let's say you make a campaign for 60 days, make a Thunderclap that's 30 days or 34, 40 days or whatever, and then try and reach the Thunderclap goal so the people who can't donate can still click, still support on Thunderclap, help it go viral, and then, the people who can donate, the people who want to donate will. And I was like, this is I have to do this. I have to talk to you about it. But yeah, anyway.
No, I mean that's really the best way to look at it, right? Like when you have a cool idea, people want to help you. It's just you want to be part of it. You want to feel like you contributed, that you're part of a movement. You're part of this creative. People are attracted to it. They want to at least be on the sidelines cheering you on, or they want to do whatever they can. And in the past, the only way people could help was like donate some money to this thing, and money's very important, right? It's gas in the tank. It's it's sunlight hitting a solar panel, right? It's like It's the energy you need to get things done and be operational. Mm-hmm. But there's other ways to help too, right? People can contribute awesome content to your campaign. People can share it on their social channels. People can tell their friends about it. Mm-hmm. And so if you give people a variety of ways to help, and one of those happens to be something they can do and want to do, then it makes you more inclusive to that desire to help. And so, I totally encourage people to, widen the swath as much as possible. Don't, if people want to help, find a way to let them help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a tough thing. It's a tough reality to face, because I'm in a position where people want to help me in Valhalla all the time. And to try and manage that, that will of okay, well, what do you want to help with? Like, do you want to be on the land shoveling, or do you want to donate, or you want to write a content, you want to make a video? And then there's a certain degree of sometimes people submit some content and they're like, oh, maybe you could share this, I'm kind of related out there, but they're just looking for a bigger network to share their stuff. And I tell them, I'm like, look, we're going to share as much as we possibly can. We can't share everything that everyone sends us, but you have to do yourself the favor as well, and you go out there and share it. You have to, you can't just expect me to take your stuff and hope that we're going to do all the work for you. You have to care about it. You have to do something about it to make it happen. And you can find people who like the topic of whatever you're talking about, or who have a certain sentiment, or positive or negative sentiment towards whatever you're talking about, and those people can support or can comment or can like or can whatever on your content, and that will help drive the possibility of it being of it really moving or creating an impact. And that impact is really in your hands. People come to us for it all the time. I'm sure people come to you for it all the time. I'm sure even agencies come to you. Right? You must get business clients and stuff too, right?
Yeah, T-Mobile's running one right now, for example, for what type of rebel are you? They have almost like a BuzzFeed style quiz, and it's a larger integrated campaign, but they want people to share a message, en masse, announcing, who won this contest, for example. Yeah. So yeah, we see some commercial clients as well.
Yeah, and so this changes that ability to let the people speak for what they want to speak. This allows people to say, hey, this is what I want to go viral. That one, no, not so much. This is what I want. People vote every day. There's the expression, you vote every day with your dollar. 100% true. I encourage people to consider where their dollars go and support and put their dollars where their mouth is, or where what their beliefs are at all times. But today, we have this unique opportunity to vote with our clicks. And with Thunderclap, we're voting with our clicks. With Facebook, every time we like something, we vote with our click. And for now, sometimes it only affects our Facebook feed, right? If you like something one time, they're going to show you a whole bunch more of it the next time. You consistently like one person's post, you're going to see that person's post consistently. You're not going to see that other guy that you haven't spoken to in 5 months. That's how it works. But there's bigger applications to this. And you've brought, like, I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but voting block?
Yeah, sure.
You are now kind of seeing, you saw, like, obviously in the last 2 years, 10,000 campaigns, which is ridiculous. Like, that's, I don't even know how many campaigns per day that are launching and starting and happening. But you saw the power of that. You saw the power of the internet. You saw the power of, like, how people's clicks can make a difference. And now you are kind of potentially going into a little bit of the political side of things. So maybe you can explain to me what voting block is and what the idea behind that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Thunderclap really got me excited in that, people want to make change happen, and they're willing to do something about it. But there's and that's sort of the end of the day. But when I saw this political stuff coming in through the pipeline, and myself getting involved in the SOPA PIPA stuff, I always felt like it's not enough to just like share content, right? There's these bigger forces at play where our politicians here in the States, for example, are completely controlled by corporate dollars. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows it. It's not this like big secret or anything. It's like, oh, yep, of course, yeah, they're totally bought out. Like, get over it.
Or you just accept it.
Yeah, or you watch the Colbert Show or Daily Show, and like it's funny, but like it's still there, right? And every day these politicians, these lawmakers are voting on issues, like real issues that will affect you, like these trade partnerships that will destroy the environment, and people not being able to marry who they want to marry. It's like these votes are happening every single day, across Congress and the state level and the local level. And the American, I can't speak globally, but our political cycle is every 2 or 4 years. Mostly people get riled up around the presidential election, and maybe you get a little bit politically involved. You catch up, you read some news, and then you're like, I'm going to make an informed decision. And you vote for like one person. You might know a couple other, but people on the ballot, but maybe 3 people total. Mm-hmm. And then that's it. And then you're like, all right, I'm good. 4 years. I'll see you in 4 years. And then these people are voting on stuff every day, and there's no way to really put pressure on them. So I just like anyone else who's gone through this exercise, you come to the same conclusion that people that are controlling our lawmakers are these PACs. They're these special interest groups that have tons of money behind them. Mm-hmm. So I got curious. I always, whenever I see a problem, like, okay, well, how does that work? And then, well, how does that work? And then how does that work? And so I sort of followed it, further and further down. And it's not that complicated. Basically, these large groups have large sums of money, and they go and they have meetings with lawmakers, and they say, hey, I know you're voting next Tuesday on this issue. Don't mind this $10 million sitting over here. Don't even look at that. That doesn't exist. But I really want you to vote this way on this issue. Mm-hmm. And, we're going to support you for your re-election bid. If you do that, we're right behind you. Don't look at this money here that we're going to donate possibly to you, or buy commercials to really swing the vote.
Or that car out there, which I might forget my keys here or something, or whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's bribery. It's just like simple, like obvious, in your face, legal bribery. And so, but it works, right? So, like, whoever has more money in an election wins the election in the states 95% of the time at the federal level.
And you can't blame them. You can't blame the fact that the person who is getting bribed, and there's no, like, they don't really, like in some cases they definitely know they're doing something wrong, but in other cases they're like, well, I kind of went either way on this vote, but you want me to go this way, and you're gonna pay me or whatever, you're gonna pay my kids tuition to go into college or something. Yeah, okay, no problem.
Yeah, and like you'll be out of a job. Like if you don't take the money, you'll have no money for your re-election campaign. So you'll lose. Then you're like, oh, I'm out of here anyway. So it's the incentives are just totally misaligned. Mm-hmm. There's no way you can be an honest politician and stay in office. Mm-hmm. And so, the whole system's corrupt. So I got the idea, like, wait a minute. So what is this money used for? This money, this $5 million the NRA is setting aside, or, whatever, oil drilling, pack. It's being used to buy advertising and to hopefully influence voters. And so, I did some research. It costs, apparently, the latest numbers I'm seeing, $150 to buy a vote. So if you have, $1 million sitting in a PAC, do the math. That can buy, I don't know, is it 10,000 votes? No, less than that, like 7,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wait a minute, okay. So money buys votes, and that is used to put pressure on Congress. What if you could just say, forget the money, just get a bunch of people to band together and say, we're going to vote as a block on the environment. We're going to vote as a block on equal marriage rights.
Mm-hmm.
And the organizer would use that block as leverage when they speak to the politicians. So it's like, hey, same meeting now, lobbyist not here, voting block organizer inserted in lobbyist place. We know there's a vote next Tuesday on issue X, and we really want you to vote this way on issue X. We don't have $10 million like this other group, but we have, 500,000 voters that are all going to vote the same way on election day to support this issue. And, this is what democracy is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, you're voting to, satisfy the needs of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if lobbyists actually had some competition, a different type of competition that wasn't money, but blocks of people? So that's the concept behind voting blocks.
I mean, righteous. Have you? I have to ask you. So wait, hold on. First of all, so now this voting block is happening, but this voting block, what you're trying to organize is like, where do these blocks define themselves? How are they defining themselves? Like, if I'm from Vermont and this other person's from California, and there's a vote going on, like, and I sign up to this site, how is that working out? Like, I'm assuming you kind of have an idea, and I'm assuming you're still working through parts of it, but how's that physically happening? Like, what's going on?
Super simple. So the blocks are organized around issues. So you could imagine an environment block or a climate change block.
Sure.
You could imagine a gun reform block. Anyone can organize a block. So I could just say, hey, I'm against unregulated guns in schools. I'm going to form a gun reform block. People can join that block from anywhere. So just like a Kickstarter campaign or a Thunderclap, it's up to the organizer to rally the people together to join that block. Right? So over time, there might be 20 or 50 or 100, gun reform blocks or 100 climate change blocks. What we're imagining, though, is there'll be some consolidation, right? So maybe these 20 blocks could band together. So we're building out the idea of a coalition page where people could still kind of, on the ground, like, work with their local constituents in their block. But when it comes to a big issue, they could join a coalition and pile all those blocks together. So, hey, I've got 5,000, you've got 30,000 people.
And the links start happening to creating this bigger and bigger lobby. And, like, it's not an anti-lobby, it's just it's another lobby.
Yeah, it's like a people lobby.
It's a people lobby, yeah. Very interesting. That's so interesting. And so to sign up, somebody goes on, I've seen the page, so somebody goes on and they write in, like, their name, their address, or their postal code or something like that, and then they're basically, now they're a voter within this block. And does that mean, like, is there any kind of, like I'm from Canada, for example, can I go in and sign up? Like, how does that work?
Not yet. Yeah. So we're going to tackle, we're going to focus just on the United States because it's a huge, messy, beast, and we're just trying to bite small chunks off. But we're hoping we create a model that people will copy in other countries that's more tailored to the voting, mechanics in that different country. Now,
is there value in your mind, or is it necessary in your mind that you also figure out whether that person who is signing up is a registered U.S. citizen or a registered U.S. voter? Like,
Absolutely.
is there like a process that actually goes through that, like that says, hey, show me your, I don't know, ID, government issued ID or something like that?
Yeah, we want the data to be as clean as possible, and also as we want people to take the data seriously. So when an organizer goes up to a politician, they say, "I have 20,000 people." Well, is that 20,000 emails? Are they fake emails? Like, do you just create this artificially? And so we're using mobile phone numbers because there tends to be a high correlation between a mobile phone number and like a real person.
Okay.
And we can tell from that phone number which country they're from. And so we know they are U.S. citizens. Some limitations are we don't know how old they are, so we're relying on a little bit of trust. And that piece, there's issues into like trying to get exact. I guess you could use credit cards, but we don't want the sign up to be too onerous. Like literally right now, to sign up, all you have to do is text your zip code to a number. That's it. There's no lengthy form to fill out. It verifies like, oh, like this actually came from a phone, and this is a real person. So it's much harder to fabricate fake users or fake supporters in your voting block. And with the zip code, we use that to apply targeted pressure. So if a politician represents a certain district, we can say, hey, our block has this many people, but 5,000 are in your district.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it can
because that was my next question is like if you have the more information you would have on these people and where they are from and what they're doing, it's one thing to be like, okay, I'm going to pressure this politician here who's in California, yet all the people who've signed up for this block are all in in some like in Texas where it's a little bit more right wing, for example, as opposed to left wing or whatever. Then it skews, right? Like it's like, well, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care what those leftists over there think, or I don't care what those righties over there think. Like whatever. Like you can't. That influence can be, it can be washed away. It could be kind of dismissed. But if you have very accurate information saying, no, this person is in your district, like they called your office 14 times, you didn't answer, so now they're a part of this voting block and they're making sure that you're doing this kind of stuff. I think that becomes interesting. That now it's like, okay, wow, these people are registered voters or they're registered American citizens or whatever it is, and that helps. Man, I think that's awesome. So wait, hold on, let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of what they did in Iceland, where they used, I think it's called You Decide, where basically in Iceland, when they had this kind of financial crisis go down, and then after it was kind of like settling down a little bit, they had, obviously a big crisis there, as they did everywhere in the world. But they actually jailed their bankers, and they kind of like kicked out everyone out of their government. And they were just like, you know what? We're rewriting the Icelandic constitution, and they used a Ruby on Rails kind of platform, and I believe it's called You Decide, where it was almost like a Reddit-like voting system. And I thought about using, and we've kind of dabbled in this a little bit, and we haven't created it yet. But we wanted to create like Reddit to me is beautiful because things going up and down as a voting, like, hey, we want to see more of this, so we upvote, or we want to see less of this, so we downvote. That's like a real cool democracy. Like Reddit is like this mini democracy that's sectioned off into a whole bunch of different things, from My Little Pony to our trees to whatever, to videos or funny or whatever, I don't know, whatever subreddit you're in. But what's cool about it is a democracy. And it has a very interesting, it tells the story about what really people want to see and what people don't want to see. And they kind of use that exact same type of model where people would submit an idea and they can upvote or downvote, or they can say, they kind of remove themselves out of the vote. They say null, basically. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that they added, which was really interesting, and then we were talking about too, we wanted to use this within Valhalla as a voting system, because if we had members around the world, but they needed to vote on something happening within the movement, we need some kind of online platform. And what was interesting is that somebody would bring up a topic, like saying, hey, we're going to ban guns in Iceland for some reason, let's say. And we're going to ban all guns in Iceland. Do you agree, yes or no? But before they clicked up or down, they would go through the top pros and the top cons of why they would do that. They'd be like, well, the pro of no guns is there will be no more gun shooting violence, right? There will be less violence in this way. Then the top con would be like, yeah, but the difference is that the guy who does get the gun illegally, now there's less people to defend him. And they would go back and forth, and people would be able to come on, see the top pros to the top cons, and then decide for themselves where they fit. They're like, you know what, I saw the top pros, saw the top cons, you know what, I still don't think guns are good, I vote for this. And that's they created their whole constitution on this. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, that's like the genius behind that is like, oh my God, that's insane. So you should totally check it out if you've never heard of it.
That's brilliant. I mean, I really, really like that. We talked about, so, there's going to be one component, which is voting blocks, and that's, you've got an organizer, they know the issue really, really well, and they're going to be the ones doing the candidate recommendations and saying like, oh, like this person voted this way on this issue, and we're gonna make the organizer post evidence for all their recommendations. So, it's not just enough to say I don't like this guy. You have to actually back it up with here's their voting
With
records.
facts.
Yep.
Mm.
Here's who they take money from, and here's their publicly stated position.
Oh
And so
wow.
like having that, we're calling it the evidence feed. So it's like all these actual events that are happening that are tangible that you can point to and say, this is why we chose this. But then we thought, wait a minute, a lot of people are like, I don't want to follow what someone else is telling me. I want to do my own research and I want to pick my own candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So that same tool that we're building for the voting blocks organizers, we want to expose to anyone who wants to build their own voting scorecard. So you go in there and you're like, I care about this issue. It'll pull up the candidates. It'll pull up their voting records, who they're taking money from, and what their publicly stated positions are. And you decide for yourself, build your own card. And you know what? Share it with your friends. Like, that's your voting scorecard. Maybe your brother or sister wants to use it. Maybe, your friend from school would want to borrow your card because they know you're a political wonk. You really study the stuff. You really care about it.
Or maybe you're just an influential person and you want to just show all your, like, here's my research. Here's what I did with this. Here's what I did with that. I've studied all the candidates. Here's who I'm voting for. And if you're an influential person, there's a lot of people who be like, you know what? I listen to this guy's podcast every time. I'm going to vote with him. Like, I believe what he did. I believe his research. And there are people out there who are super passionate about this kind of stuff, and they follow these politicians. There was I'm sure you've heard of Ron Paul.
Mm-hmm.
The following that ensued Ron Paul was incredible. I love Ron Paul, and the Fed and all that kind of stuff is my kind of philosophy in many ways. It's not that I want to end money, and the Fed is very different. Want to end kind of fractional reserve banking. That's a very different story, but. And if you read the book, it's not about ending banking. It's about just ending one common currency and creating competing currencies. Anyway, long story short, there are a lot of people who do this kind of research and who have much more informed decisions and can help the person who's like, you know what, I don't really care, actually find a way of like understanding who and what they should vote for. And most elections happen based on a couple of key little things. There's a couple of key little things that a politician did, and we're like, you know what? We're not going with that guy. We're going with this guy, even though the person that did that one little thing that you might have disliked and voted against him for probably was more in line with what you think as a whole. And this is this is happening right now, all the time, like real time. Like, it happened in Quebec recently. So if you guys, any Montrealers listening to this, okay, look, Pauline Marois, this political figure, wants to separate Quebec. They want the French kind of Quebec state to be its own country, and that's it's a goal that they've wanted to do for a while. And we had a referendum that ended in 49, in the 90s. Two referendums that ended in very, very close votes to actually separating Quebec. And what's interesting is that Pauline Marois probably has, so this political figure, probably has more in common with the average voter. Like, the average voter probably agrees with this person more on almost all issues other than this one issue than they did with the other party that now want a majority that is like going to pillage all the gold and natural gas and is going to like rape our forests and rape all this stuff. But there's this one thing that we're like, everyone's like, okay, wait, you know what? We're going to vote with this guy for because he doesn't believe in the same thing that this thing. Exactly. And that's the power of Thunderclap to get these kind of messages out there. And that's the power of voting blocks to make this information like spread, because, people are like, oh, well, the only way to change the system is if we like completely trash it. And I'm like, yeah, sort of. Like, yes and no. I don't think it's going away. I mean, yes, there will be some kind of cataclysmic collapse in the same way that there is a cataclysmic collapse that happens around any big thing. Like any empire that's risen to power is going to fall at some point, and the banking system one day will collapse and things will happen. Is it anytime soon? I don't know. Nobody knows. It could have happened in 2007 or 8, whatever. It didn't. We're still here. Everything was working, kinda, and whatever. But again, like, you're on the leading edge of this kind of technology. You're on the leading edge of like making a really awesome tool, and I don't know how much you're aware of it, because you talk to me about it like, oh yeah, it's okay, it's cool. Well, maybe I'll help some people, and I'm here like, oh my god.
No, man, the the way I look at it is like people, if you care about something, you'll chip away at it, right? But what if you could get 5 people to chip away at it, and then what if you could get 10,000 people to chip away at it, and what if you could get 1,000,000 people to be just doing their little, just little tiny like pickaxe and whatever, trying to make this rock, cleave in half, and the tendency is to be like, oh, we need a revolution. Let's like throw a bomb at that thing and just shatter it, right? And you can have that same effect with just a bunch of people taking little actions consistently and giving them a way to do that, right? Like the case that you mentioned where, there's this political figure in Canada that is probably 95% aligned with what you believe in, but has this weird, side thing that, and it disqualifies him. But it's almost like it's a user experience problem or like a data visualization problem. If you can show people like, look, this is you, this is this person, you're almost identical. Here's this little sliver over here where you differ, and you're focusing on that. If you want to focus on that, cool. But here's the data. Just take a quick look, and if that can sway 10% of people, 50% of people, then I think it's a problem worth going after.
Well, I mean, I commend you for it. I commend you for wanting to go after it because, I spent a lot of time in the political realm, like researching and watching documentaries, and like I said, I went to these Occupy and everything, and it takes, there's effort that goes into this kind of stuff, and it's polarizing, and people are going to have a lot of criticisms compared to like Thunderclap. I'm sure you're going to have a lot more like, wait, how does that work, mate? Let me make sure that's fair, though. Like let me make sure that all of these kind of questions are addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the second you bring up politics, the second you bring up religion, it's all those things, right? Like those topics, those taboo topics that we shouldn't talk about or that you try not to talk about. But those things we're so charged. We're so like, we have all these opinions that come from other people and other things that have been kind of embedded into us from the media, from all kinds of places, this is why we're voting on these things, is because the media did this. The media focused on one little sliver. And there's a whole bunch of things that they're trying to talk about in some of these debates or whatever, but nobody cares about that. We care about this because that's what the media talked about. That's what everyone's talking about, as the newspapers are going to talk about tomorrow. And it's tough. It's tough. There's too much information. It's like we're being overwhelmed with how much information is out there. And sometimes I think about it and I'm like, wow, like this is, I don't even know what to do. Like I don't even know what to say to people. And people, like how do we deal with this? How do we fix this? And I always boil it down to, and you just said it eloquently there, is that if you do something, if you take action in small ways, and if you commit yourself to something, you can make a difference. The guys who created Coney 2012 made it. The guys who created Thunderclap, or the guy who created Thunderclap, one of the guys who created Thunderclap, made it. The group of people of Valhalla, we're doing it. We're trying to do it. Are we always successful? No. We don't know all the answers. We don't have all the right. We don't know everything that we should do this way or the other way, but we're trying. Gandhi was someone. Barack Obama was once a kid who had a dream or whatever it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you think Barack Obama knew that he was going to be president of the United States? No way. No way. There's no way he woke up one day at 12 and was like, you know what? I think I'm going to be president. And I'm starting today. There's no way. It just happened. You can, if you start doing it today, if you start like changing your patterns and changing the world around you and changing the people you hang out with and your lifestyle, you can change and influence more than just yourself. Because if you influence yourself and you truthfully believe it, that circle of influence and that belief truthfully grows, and people see it in you. Like if you're a happy person and you have a good vibe, people pick up on that good vibe and they're like, "Oh, that guy's such a cool guy. Like he's a really interesting person." And the exact same thing applies to if you're doing something you love and you're doing something that you're passionate about and consistently working on it, then you're going to create a serious change. And if you use the right tools, if you visit Thunderclap.it or Green Seed or whatever, like Kickstarter, all of them, Facebook, all of these things are just tools that you can use to share what you ate last night, or they're tools that you can share some very important causes and very things that mean a lot to you, and you can find ways to support even with a couple of clicks, even with what is it called? What is that called? There's that term.
Slacktivism?
Oh, slacktivism. Yeah, exactly. Well, slacktivism can become a real form of activism. I think. There's so much out there. There's so many tools, and you just need to start doing it today.
Yeah, I don't know if I can follow up on that, Mark. That was the way that you summed up. Like, it's the change starts with you. People will notice that. They'll be attracted to what you're doing, and then all the biggest things that I've seen in the last 5 or 10 years has always been a small team. It's been 3 people. It's been 5 people. 10 people. 10 people is like a big team. Like you can move some mountains with 10 people. That's tremendous. And people, I think, they get scared and they're like, oh man, like these guys have millions of dollars. That's how they did that. And not always. Nope. Sometimes it's just a couple people with some basic tools who really care about something, and you just gotta follow what you believe, and then there's no getting around seeing when someone's really, they've got that fire in their eye and they're trying to do something. It's attractive. Like you want to be part of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, look, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I do want to talk to you a little bit about some stuff with Thunderclap and Green Seed and Valhalla and all that stuff. For more information on Voting Block, where should they go?
Right now, we only have one campaign running, but if you go to votingblocks.com, you can sign up for updates on what we're up to. There is a campaign running. Lawrence Lessig is running a voting block to get money out of politics. So if you go to votingblocks.com/NH for New Hampshire Rebellion, you can check out what he's up to on the platform.
Beautiful. Okay, and Thunderclap, I've mentioned it before, all the links and all that kind of stuff. I'm probably going to be doing a blog post about this because I think it's an incredible topic. I thank you so much for your time. I don't think this is the last conversation we're going to have via podcast or via anything.
I hope not.
No, trust me. Definitely not. I am planning on using Thunderclap, and I've talked about it to clients. I've talked about it to people, and I'm like, we just got to do it. We got to try it. We got to make it happen. And everyone seems to be excited about it. I think you stumbled on and you created something that I'm telling you, it's beyond powerful. It's beyond interesting. It's providing that power that, to me, networks have today, that media has today, and potentially putting it in people's hands if they come together with the right cause, the right content, they can make it fly. They can really make it fly. So anyway, thank you very much. If you guys want to download the audio version, I should have said this at the beginning, you can download it on our SoundCloud, and check out Valhalla Movement for a blog that's going out with this podcast if you're listening to it on YouTube. So thanks very much, Dave. I really appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Mark. Thank you so much. Take care.